Hello, everyone. Court Vision is back in session. Let's start this off. We're back with the division predictions. This time it's the Southeast Division.
Southeast.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
It's definitely as you know not the most exciting. As usual, we got Kilroy, Mongo, Tommy. We are sans Kevin. He is stuck at work, but it's okay. We got second Kevin, where Mongo will pretend to be Kevin.
He just needs a toad hat.
Anyway, let's kick this thing off in no other way than starting at the bottom. We got the best, like Tommy said. This is the
Southeast.
None of us want to be here. Let's do this thing. I'm so excited.
We're doing.
I'm literally going to see if I can eat this many animal crackers during this process. Let's go Southeast. It's terrible. I'm here. Let's go. Come on.
It's muggy. It's terrible.
You know what, Tommy? You kick us off with your Washington Wizards prediction.
Let me tell you, the Washington Wizards, they're not a good team. I gave them.
Oh, no.
I gave them a grand total of 13 wins.
13.
Big shocker there.
That's historically terrible.
I mean, they are pretty bad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I don't have them much better. After last week, when you all reminded me how bad the Washington Wizards are, I switched them from 20 wins down to 15.
Whew. All right, we're going to go back to Tommy, but just for the record here, I have them sitting pretty at 18. Does that even get the high man? What do you have, Matt Kilroy?
15.
All right, so I'm the high man at 18. Oh, no, Kevin is at 20. He's not here tonight, but Kevin's the high man at 20. So go ahead, Tommy, you're the low man. You started off. We'll bring it around to me because I think I can defend Kevin as well here.
Wait, I'm the Washington Wizards of this group. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That hurts,
well,
but that's fair.
Washington Wizards. Like we said last episode, the rule of thumb is, if a team's going to get a win, it's going to be against the Washington Wizards. Yeah, so when you I think even some of the worst teams will be beating up on this team. And, they really have nothing going for them right now, in my opinion. Like Jordan Poole is not the Jordan Poole who was in Golden State. Kyle Kuzma is not Lakers. Kyle Kuzma
being punched by Draymond. You mean?
Yeah, that punch did a lot to that man.
Yeah, I mean, so I have them going the same as they did last year, 15 wins. This team, I don't think got better. They definitely didn't get worse. I mean, it's hard to be like, how did they not get better? They just had the second overall pick, and they got Alex Sarr, something like that. And he has a lot of potential, but let's not forget this draft class is not like super highly. Yeah, it's a stinky draft class. It stinks, pew pew, as my son would say. And this guy is very raw. He has comparables to Victor Wembanyama in the fact that he's a French 7-footer, and that's about it.
Talk about a stretch.
And don't get me wrong, I think he has the ability to be an NBA player, much more so than Dragon Bender.
Your boy.
But I don't see him being able to be some sort of savior to this team this year. I think he needs time to grow. I think he played in something so far in the Vegas League, right, or something.
This entire rookie class was too bad to be exempt from the summer league. They all played in the summer league.
Yeah, and they didn't do
entirely.
Great.
Yeah, and nobody, not entirely. I mean, there are injuries and whatnot, but the point is, they all had to prove themselves. They were all pretty bad. The only guy who stood out was Reed Shepherd when we get to the Houston Rockets. Everyone else was very rookie-ish. No one.
So it doesn't instill confidence in me that this will give them more wins. But I also don't think this team is worse than last year. So that's why I just put them on par from last season.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tommy.
Sorry, I was just asking a quick question about Sarr, but it'd be easier if Kevin was here. Like, is he even high up on the odds for Rookie of the Year? Like,
You're asking the wrong person to look
This
things
is a
up.
Kevin question.
Well, so I happen because I'm the degenerate in the group. He's fairly high up there, like top 6 or 7, but it's more a reflection of what is in the pool, in my opinion, than anyone's ability. Reed Shepard, like I said, is the heavy favorite. Reese Hache from Atlanta, who we'll talk about, I'm assuming, very soon, before we get to the top 2 of this division, is up there. Alex Sarr is, and again, this is what we talk about a lot of times with rookies. He's up there higher or lower depending on what you think Washington's going to do, which I'll talk about in just a second. If you think that Washington is intentionally going to try and go 0-82, Alex Sarr moves up in the rookie rankings, right? Whereas if they're going to try and actually be competitive through Christmas, well, then maybe he's not even starting, which again, like I said, I'll address that in a moment. So, he's definitely top 10. He'll definitely be on the rookie team come, the All-Star break. But again, that's more a reflection of who's actually, let me put it this way. This division was arguably the worst, if not one of the 2 worst last year. They had 4 of the top 14 draft picks this year because Washington, had the 2, right? They have Bub Carrington and Sarr. Nothing's changed. This division is still atrocious, right? Mm-hmm. To get 4 lottery picks and not even remotely move the needle should tell you all you need to know about A, this lottery, but B, how far off this division is, but more so this lottery, right? San Antonio got Wembanyama and immediately, okay, we got something to watch. We at least have a way more interesting Southwest. We 4 lottery picks and we still don't care about this division.
Yeah.
Quick, can you name the coach of the Orlando Magic?
Nope, never could, never will.
Jamal Mosley.
Oh, look at you go!
Don't ask me to spell it though.
Kilroy, coach of the Timberwolves.
Flip Saunders' son.
Oh no, something with a Finch. Chris Finch.
Yeah, David Finch.
David Finch. There. I had to put you back in your place. Hey, listen. Here's the most meaningless hot take of all time, because I'm going to give you a fact about Washington or an opinion about Washington that you can't use. You can't gamble on this, but here's what I'm telling you. I have the Wizards, like I said, I have the Wizards at 18 wins. Kevin has them at 20 wins. I spoiler, we'll get there in a second. I also have Charlotte below 30. If you told me that one team, Charlotte or Washington, wins 36 games next year, I would tell you, no doubt at all, 100%, it is Washington. So that should tell you where I am on this situation. Charlotte's just a bad team, just a garbage team. Washington's problem can be summed up in 2 words, and nobody air quote me here because I have to explain. The 2 words are Saddiq Bey. And here's the problem. They signed Saddiq Bey late in the summer, and he creates absolute chaos in this Washington lineup because if he's the 3, Kuzma becomes the 4. Now either Alex Sarr, who, Tommy, to your question, was the number 1 if he didn't say, yo, Atlanta, don't draft me. Mm-hmm. So either Alex Sarr comes off the bench or new free agent Jonas Valanciunas comes off the bench. Neither one wants to. If you go the other way, if Saddiq Bey becomes the 2, now either Jordan Poole is the worst point guard in the NBA by a mile, or Jordan Poole is the 6th man, which we know he doesn't want to do that either. So you have too many guys who could be and should be starters on decent teams where somebody's going to have to swallow their pride to make this current configuration work, right? You have Malcolm Brogdon and Bub Carrington as point guards. So either a guy who you want to start in Bub Carrington, a lottery pick, is going to get kind of lost, or Malcolm Brogdon is exactly what he was in Portland, the forgotten veteran off the bench. There's just a whole.
Brogdon was on this team.
Right. You forget about it. It's actually just, if you were to look at this team as a video game, it's not that bad. There's actually a whole lot of moving parts. But at the end of the day, there's too many parts. Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, and Bub Carrington are still way too young to contribute. And, they just need a year. They're a little bit time away. I love this team in 2025. I adore this team in 2026. They just need a little bit of time to develop. But if they manage to make it click, if they develop early, right? We see that all the time, teams getting ahead of themselves. If you told me right now, if you told me flash forward to April and there's the fourth team in the Southeast is 15 games ahead of the fifth seed, the fifth seed is Charlotte. I'm telling you right now, there's no way Charlotte gets way ahead of Washington. Either they both stink or Washington puts it all together and gets ahead of Charlotte. So I like what they're doing. Bravo to Washington. They just need time.
Yeah, I mean, I echo your sentiment, especially about the Hornets and the Wizards. If one's going to be better, like significantly better than the other, it would be the Wizards. Prior to my changing of the Wizards record, I had them tied with the Hornets at 20 wins.
Yeah.
And I probably could knock the wins a couple. I feel weird knocking more than one. So spoiler, the Hornets last year, it's not really a spoiler. The season's over. Had 21 wins last year.
Fair enough.
So I did knock him a win. This team's not good. Ball does not. Ball's just collecting money. He doesn't. I don't think he actually wants to be serious. And maybe that's just me feeling that way because he's not content with this team, and the team doesn't plan on moving him, and he's not going to be vocal enough to ask to be moved because he is making money and he's happy making money. But this team is just bad. They don't know what they're doing in their coaching. They don't know what they're doing with their players. They hung on to Gordon Hayward for way too long, and I feel like they don't know by them. I just think that team's just really bad. And I think it's like Mongo said, it's a different type of bad. It's a poorly constructed team where the Wizards are a very young team.
I think there's no vision to this team. Like,
right.
It's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and at least the Wizards got a little bit of depth. I mean, the Charlotte. So two things here. One, the Charlotte bench is atrocious. I put him at 24. Kevin put him at 26. But we all agree they stink. And aside from, I think the only thing I even give them remotely, basically JT Thor out, Josh Green in, is negligible at worst, a win or two at best. Also, the East generally stinks, so you gotta give the wins somewhere. But I think on top of everything else, here's the thing. Let's imagine it's February, right? It's the All-Star break. And the Hornets and the Raptors and the Wizards and the Nets and all these stinko teams are fighting for the 10 seed, which, by the way, I think is the greatest race this year by far. I think the 10 seed in the East is the amazing race. But in 2022, Charlotte, which had Ball and had Bridges, went to the play-in. They got eliminated, but these guys have been to a play-in, so they're not necessarily thinking we need that experience. The experience of losing to beating the Hawks by 2 and then losing to the Pacers by 27 doesn't necessarily, satisfy this Charlotte team. Whereas, like, if Washington can get to the 10 seed with 28 wins and then lose to the Hawks by 40, they'd sign up for that today. If Toronto can get to the 9 seed, beat the Hawks by 3, and then lose to the Heat by 50, they'd sign up for that today. This Hornet team has been to the summit as far as what the summit is for the Hornets. This team has been the 9 or 10 seed with its construction. They're not going to get higher than that. We know there's no way they're going to be better than the Pacers or the Heat, let alone maybe the Hawks or the Nets or the Raptors or anyone else. So the fact that they will get to the middle point of the season and go, we have nothing to gain by being good, they're going to stink. We know the Hornets traditionally stink in the second half. They have no advantage to push for the 10 or no, gain, emotional victory gain to go for the 10 seed. They could easily finish the year like 3-15, 4-20. They could really just tank for it in a better draft than this one was. They drafted Salon at number 6, who is not going to be ready. So, getting an NBA ready player next year to pair with him getting more ready would help them out. I don't buy into this Hornet team at all. I'm sorry. They're bad. They stink.
Tommy, what did you have their win total at?
24-58.
Yeah, I'm right
Okay.
there with you.
Yeah.
They're just bad. They're
bad.
gross.
We all
And the
agree.
the only reason I have such
Um,
a stark difference between Washington and this team is that I think this team will beat up on some of the weaker teams that Washington can. They're gonna snag a win against the Portland, Brooklyn, heck, maybe a San Antonio, but barely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them this. Ball, Bridges, and Williams is a very formidable top three. Better than what you're absolutely right, Tommy. Better than what Brooklyn has. Better than what a lot of teams have. But I almost put them in that same gap as where the Cardinals were, like the Arizona Cardinals were, or where the Clippers were from like 1992 to 2005, where they're floating. They're just there. They have nothing. Even the Bengals had some high picks that they just missed on. But there's just a stench of mediocrity that just makes this team almost unbearable.
So I think now we're moving into where. So we all have the same team here. For our number 3. I think though we all are gonna. This is where we're gonna have probably the biggest difference potentially in wins.
That's very possible.
I have the Hawks. Well, yeah, I have the Hawks going 38-44. That's 2 more wins than they had last year. I that might be a little bit underselling. I feel like they could be closer to 500. This team does have talent on it. It's just, can they put it together? Can they does Trae Young stay happy? Do they panic? And do they try to move him if the team struggles? And there was talk. Geez, I can't talk today. There was talk that they potentially could trade him. San Antonio came to mind, came in conversation. San Antonio has the assets to go trade for him if they want to.
We've lost Kilroy here. Just give us a second.
Well, that's awkward. Kilroy, if you can hear me, you have gone mute. Up there you go. You're back. Kilroy, we lost you there for about maybe 15 seconds.
It's my connection. Yeah. Where did you laugh? Anyway, what I was saying was the Hawks have the Hawks, if they struggle early enough, or not necessarily early, but they're struggling in the first half and it's approaching the trade deadline, and they get a nice enticing trade offer for Trae Young, there's a chance that they sell him high while they can, because this team isn't quite contender yet. They were a few years ago, but
Tommy, did you just lose him too, or is that just me?
Yeah, I lost him too.
Kilroy, if you don't mind, let's do a favor. Let's go to Tommy when give your internet a time to settle in. We'll come back around to you.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, Tommy, take it away there. We'll keep it rolling.
I'm not too far off from Michael. I've got him going 34-48. That's only because there's other teams in the league getting better, as this team just feels the same. You guys know a couple of years back, I was really high on Atlanta. I've since turned a 180 on this team. I just don't have faith in Atlanta. I think if Trae Young gets moved, it's going to be by the deadline. What's there? What else is there to say here?
No, you guys nailed it. It's pretty good. So ironically, I think this might make the conversation in 2 weeks interesting. But Kevin has them at 32 wins, which is good for the 10 seed. I have them at 32 wins, which is good for the 9 seed. So it's more about who we think is better or worse. But we have Atlanta exactly identical. Here's my thing about Atlanta, though. I will give them a little bit of credit. They were very redundant. Last year, in terms of Hunter and Bogdanovich being similar players, Capella and the kid out of USC, blanking on his name right now, being similar players. Even Murray and Young are ball first, guards. And by making the trades they made, they're a little bit more multi-dimensional. Like having Larry Nance as your backup power forward, when he's nothing like Jalen Johnson, is fairly important. Reece Shea and Hunter are very different threes. And you also have some creativity here. You can put Reece Shea at the 2 and Hunter at the 3. If there's a better offensive forward, you need Hunter to guard, or you can put Reece Shea at the 3. You can put Bogdanovich at the 2. You have a lot of options. I think they're not done yet necessarily. They're banking very much on Kobe Buffkin being a reasonable backup point guard. That's a very bold move. We'll see how that plays out. But I do think they are a more flexible team, than they were a year ago. And so I'll give them credit for that. Again, do I think they're good? No. Do I think Miami and the Pacers are locks to be the 2 teams that make it through the play-in? Absolutely. I think the whole bottom of the league is deck chairs on the Titanic. I think we're just guessing on what the order is. But I do have Atlanta making the play-in. And so does Kevin.
I have no idea.
That's fair.
I have no idea either.
But I think they're better off today than they were 6 months ago, because they are way more diverse than they were 6 months ago. I will give them that.
That's fair. We've spent plenty of time on them.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Let's move on to the top 2.
Sweet.
I have the Miami Heat as the number 2 team. I actually have them winning one less game than they had last year. I have them at 45 wins. They had 46 last year. Jimmy Butler's another year older. I think they're going to prioritize him being healthy for the playoffs more so than forcing him to play during the regular season. They want to have that magical run again, like they did a couple years ago. This team is still good. Bam is not underrated. He's rated very highly as a top defender. He has this year should give him with how much people are poo-pooing on Rudy Gobert. This is Bam's year to get his best chance at winning it, because Victor's still young. That if he's going to try to steal a defensive player of the year, this is the year for him to steal it before Victor starts racking them up like it's hotcakes.
Like they're
and
stones.
I still think that this Miami team is going to try to hunt for someone. They don't have much assets to trade, but they like to find a bargain, and it doesn't have to be a star player, but bring in some nice solid bench players to fill out the team as they're approaching the second half of the season, to give themselves the best chances they can at advancing in the playoffs. Because once they get into the playoffs, which I think this team can get into the playoffs, they're going to be dangerous no matter what. Jimmy Butler's one of the best. Bam is one of the best. Eric Spoelstra's arguably the best coach in the league. So you can never discount them once they get into the playoffs. My only concern is, will they be able to stay healthy enough to get to the playoffs? That's why I have them with less wins than the Magic. But if you told me that they end up having the better record, I totally understand it.
And Tommy, I'm going to go to you next, but the weekly reminder, right? This is not a power ranking. This is a win-loss game. And Tommy, unless you're going to shock the world here, me and Kevin are both with Kilroy in that, the win number is one thing. The confidence factor, the power ranking is another thing, where we all think Miami can go further than Orlando. We just think Orlando's going to try harder. And every year that Miami gets older, they're going to get 1 year closer to trying to go full Hakeem Olajuwon, where they don't even host a first round playoff, where they're the 8th seed and then just make a run for it, or whatever they were in 95, where they just didn't care because they knew they were the better team. Tommy, prove me wrong, but I think we're all in agreement here that Miami is the scarier team, but may not necessarily beat Orlando in the wins game.
So I have them in second as well. I have a few more wins. I gave them 50 wins. That was just like kind of ballparking it, though. If I were to redo this, I might take a couple wins away. But mainly for the same reasons you guys mentioned. this team is really good. It just, I wouldn't be surprised to see less than 50. I kind of wanted to highball it a little bit.
No, I like that. Now I'll tell you, me and Kevin actually happen to agree on the Heat and the Magic here. We both have the Heat in second at 44 and 38.
Okay,
And,
that sounds pretty much the same as me.
We're right there with you, yeah. And again, that's literally they're getting old factor. Again, that has nothing to do with their playoff, ability or their power ranking or anything. I do think a fun little addition by subtraction here, though. Caleb Martin leaving Miami, who you know my opinion. The team didn't like him, right? They let him get beat up by the Raptors. That's all you need to know. But their depth chart right now is very unique in that they're going to be relying, very heavily on Nikola Jovic and Jaquez, the other rookie from last year. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. And that's their depth chart at the 4, right? Jimmy Butler can finally go to his natural 3 position. But the thing is, if those guys don't develop, it's not really a problem. They re-signed Thomas Bryant. They drafted Khalil Ware. You just get more Kevin Love at the 4 instead of having 4 true bigs on this team. So they have enough big guys where their, quote, gamble is actually not really a gamble because you can just have a really big 4 and 5. Or, Kor, you've talked about this before. Bam can play the 4 if he really needs to. So I'm not too worried about their big question mark. I would love to see them use Duncan Robinson more as a backup 2 or 3. But the signing of Alec Burks gives them Alec Burks and Terry Rozier. I don't know if there's a more offense-dominant pair of point guards in the league. I mean, that's a dominant pair of offensive ones. So I really like what this team has created here in that they, for what we talked about 2-3 years ago, right? Omer Yurtseven was their 6th man, right? This team was completely, absolutely just void of depth. And now all of a sudden they go 9-10 guys and you're like, all right, I still trust these dudes. If you trust Jovic and Jaquez, and if you don't, okay, I get why you'd be sour on Miami. But if you believe in those guys taking the increase, this is a good 9-10 deep team. And, I really like this team. Like I said, I have them in the play-in. I have them winning in the play-in and getting into the playoffs. I'd have to imagine, based on his records, Kevin's fairly close to that as well. But this is a sneaky team that's a little bit more diverse than it's been in the couple years past.
That's fair. Tommy, so you said you had 50 wins for the Heat, but you had the Magic having more wins, presumably because they won. You have them in first. How many more wins? What do you got them at?
If this is a tiebreaker, I'm going to lose my mind.
So it's a tie, but I'm not going into a tiebreaker. I'm just going to say they won the season series. Who cares? I have
Eat
them at
animal cracker noob.
well.
No ties on the show. You have one rule.
And honestly, it was an oversight when I did it, and I forgot I had them tied.
I respect that. I'll take accidents. I will always accept accidents. I will never accept
regardless,
tiebreakers.
I have them winning the division. I really think this is going to be a big year for Paolo Banchero.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll subtract 1 win from the Wizards and add it to the.
So now Washington's going to be even more historically low at 12 wins.
Now, I will say this, Tommy. If you told me the Magic and Heat were tied, I don't think there's any way you convince me the Heat are going to win a regular season series against them. The Magic are going to try so much harder than the Heat this year. I'm with you. This is the rare case where you do not have to sell the tie to me. I believe you fully on this one.
So, also, I mentioned there would be a Sacramento Kings. I think this is my Sacramento Kings this year.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they're like the Sacramento Kings because I think they're this team being as good as they were last year proves that they're not the Sacramento Kings because the Sacramento Kings.
But this is the I'm going to die on this hill team. That I think they're going to have a good year.
Oh, you mean like the Detroit Pistons of old?
All right, well, okay, listen. I intentionally denied the Wizards this year because they're the Pistons of that year. If you missed it, by the way, I was way too high on the Pistons a few years ago just because they had raw talent. I didn't consider the idea that basketball's a team sport. I'm avoiding that this year with the very talented Washington Wizards. But again, they need time to develop. So, Tommy, 47 wins for the Magic last year. You're at least going up for a team that did very little to change. So I do respect this. How high are you going? Where's your number?
I just think it's not so much what they added this time, more so is everyone's going to just naturally get a little better than they were last year.
Oh, the players on the team.
Yes, the players on the team are going to get, and they're naturally going to get better as they play.
Yeah.
So did you went to 50? Tommy?
I went to 50, yeah.
50. Okay, so up 3 for natural growth. I'll buy that.
I have them exactly the same at 47 wins. I think the top of the East is still very tough. The bottom of the East is not great, but I still think that the Magic are going to get enough wins to be above 500 and floating with 50. They could get to 50, and I wouldn't be surprised. Just like I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat got to 50. I'd be more surprised by the Heat just because I don't see them wanting to put that effort in, but the Magic being a young and hungry team, wanting to prove that last year wasn't a fluke, I could see them easily getting that 50 wins, or they could end up performing how the Knicks did a couple years ago after they had that big surprise being the 4th seed and then falling out of existence. But I'm confident in them, so that's why I'm keeping them at 47 wins.
So ironically, me and Kevin, Tommy, and listen, I think you're the highest on the Magic of us. So I will still, if they win the championship, I'll give you the win as your Orlando Magic. But hey, me and Kevin have them at 52. 50 as well. I have them at 50. Kevin has them at 50. So we're right there with you. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is the big name to take away here. They finally went out. Last year they went out and they basically brought the same team back. They pulled the Sacramento Kings. Let's just run it back, see what happens. And we know that doesn't terribly work. So at least Orlando went out and did something a tiny bit different. I think Caldwell Pope is I don't want to say overrated. That's not fair to really anyone in the NBA. But when we were talking about Westbrook last week, and we talked about how 2 guys that Denver brought in who aren't necessarily 3-point guys still kept up with KCP. I think he's seen as he's seen as like a Matt Bonner type, sometimes like I'm just going to stand in the corner and shoot. And that's not who he is. And that's kind of what the Magic need, right? They lost Joe Ingles. They brought in KCP. I think Ingles was actually a better fit for this team. You got Anthony Black. You got Cole Anthony, you got Suggs, you got guys who need the ball. And so the fact that KCP isn't just truly a spot-up shooter, or at least wasn't last year, is actually a little bit concerning. But I'm with you, Tommy. I'm just going to give them natural growth. I'm going to chalk up the increase in wins more to the East being atrocious than the Magic being great. I do think they lose very quickly to the Cavs in the first round of the playoffs. We'll talk more about that when we get to May. But for now, I have them as a top 6 team. I think they're a good top 6 team. I think they're a safe top 6 team. They're a deep top 6 team. I will say with Chuma Okeke, possible New York Knicks Chuma Okeke, leaving Orlando, Jonathan Isaac needs to be healthy. If Jonathan Isaac is on the IL for the year by November 3rd, they're a little short at the 4. They have 3 true 5s. But they really need Isaac to be a good defensive presence at the 4. So we'll see how that plays out. But overall, I like this team. I think they're a safe team. They don't wow me at all. They're an easy out in the playoffs, in my opinion. But fun jerseys, fun court, fun city. I root for them. It is what it is.
Kevin's cousin roots for them. Names his kids after them.
That's true too.
I think this team is going to go into some games and steal wins that they're expected to lose. Like, against some of the bigger teams, like I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a win against like a Bucks, something like, or a Suns,
Yeah, I mean it really is matchup based. I mean they have 3 true bigs. De Silva's a rookie, but he can ball and he can be sneaky. And if De Silva and Isaac can play the 3 and the 4 next to each other well, you're not going to get a lot of offense, but you can try and really slow play some wins here, you can sneak out some wins with maybe like a Batadze, a De Silva and an Isaac, giving you 20 minutes a night as a backup 3, 4 or 5, 3, 4, and 5, I should say. So it's not as fun of a team, I feel, as it was the last couple of years, but I feel it's a better team. Those two things tend to be synonymous a lot in the NBA, right? Like, okay, this team is now kind of dry, but they know what they're doing. I feel like that's the case with Orlando. So I'm kind of there with you, Tommy.
Okay. Anything else anyone wants to add before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, Kevin says he has the Clippers going 87 and -5.
Wow. Good job, Kevin. At least you got the math right.
This will be a test to see if Kevin watches the show. If he doesn't,
Thank you
Kevin
all so
also
much
wanted us
for
to know that he's a big LeBron fan.
yes, Kevin loves LeBron James. Send him all your LeBron merchandise.
We'll have a link to his email.
house.
His house. No. We don't want to dox him.
Oh, sorry, I panicked.
I was going to say a PO box is what I meant to say. We'll have a link to his PO box number that he will never go to. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment down below what you have for the division. Do you think that we're wrong about the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets? Probably you won't. But do you think we are? Bye.
Love y'all.